Good morning and welcome to the 9th episode of our podcast,
where we drink tea and navigate the balance between school and personal life.
I'm Sophia Safe.
And I'm Sophia Curry.
And this is Sip and Spill.
Welcome back to the Tea Journal.
The topic we'll be touching on today is your relationship as a student to your close school faculty.
Today we'll touch on your teachers, your guidance counselor, and your principal.
So what does a relationship with your teacher look like?
I think it's all about, the communication, number one, that you talk about. So, how you go up to them regarding problems, questions, or just, comments. And then also, some students get really close with their teachers and, talk about personal things.
Right.
And
using them as a trusted adult.
Yes. And I think, when a student relationship gets that close with a teacher, I think that's when things really start to open up and you garner more opportunities for yourself to kind of really, even in that class, but also between that teacher, and that can just, it's a good thing to have because it allows you, I feel like, to look forward to a class in your day and also have someone to go to, during the day if you ever need something or just talk about something,
And then also eventually teacher recs for college. Teacher recommendations.
I was going to say that, but I don't want to sound like we're just using our teachers for recommendations.
No.
Yeah.
But in addition to what you said.
Yeah. And then also, what does a relationship with your guidance counselor looks like?
So again, also teacher recommendations, but this is more about personal stuff. It comes with classes, and then eventually some people have a really close relationship with their guidance counselor where they talk about things in their life that are more personal to them.
I definitely know people who are really close with their guidance counselor who go to them for a lot of things, especially if they're having family issues and they don't know really how to handle that, especially regarding college. Guidance counselors are a really good resource. Of course, they're supposed to be there to help you figure out, in high school, the next steps you're taking into your adult life, and that can be really scary. And being close with your guidance counselor can really help because if they know you more on a personal level, they can kind of help guide you in the best direction for you and say, hey, say you're having a family issue, hey, this might be the best way to go if, your family might not want to pay for your college or stuff like that.
Right.
And then
okay, thank you. What does a relationship with your principal look like?
Yeah. I feel like that's a hard one,
Very.
Depending on your school size.
Absolutely. We have a really large school, so it's kind of hard to have a close relationship with your principal. Honestly, in a large school or a small school, principal has so many duties.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of, I don't want to say a figurehead, but they're kind of the person that everybody knows, but some people might not have a close relationship. And depending on your principal, I know our principal really tries to foster a relationship with students and talk to them, and we see him around, and he's at lunch, and he's at different places, and it's nice, and he really puts himself out there so he can connect better with his students. I think that's really important for students to kind of have some sort of connection with someone who's higher up in the leadership at their school because, it's good to feel like they're not just some looming authority figure.
Absolutely, I agree.
And it's kind of it's more personal than that, and they really do have your best interests at heart. So I think, how do they go about doing that? How do you go about forming a relationship with your principal?
With your principal?
Yeah, specifically. I think it's hard because it's so straightforward, I think, with a teacher and a guidance counselor because you talk to them more. You're
in constant contact with these people. You see them every day or multiple times a year.
Yes, if your guidance counselor, or if you want to talk to your guidance counselor, you can go to them, you can shoot them an email, set up with a meeting, and, they'll spend that time to talk with you. And then also, teachers, you see them on a daily basis. They teach you, they're around you, you've had them all year. So you really get that chance to foster a connection with them because you're in class for them 45 minutes every single day a week. And for the entire year, depending on what teacher this is. Maybe you only have a half semester, but
Right, or you might have half semester, you might have 2 years with this teacher.
yeah. And I think that's like another thing that I like. Like, I think us personally, our pre-calc teacher right now, we definitely can have next year. We have a possibility of having next year for calculus.
Right.
And we both really want her for calculus, for
Yeah.
sure.
She's an amazing teacher.
Oh my gosh, for sure. If I don't get her next year, I'm gonna
I'd
be so upset.
sad. I know.
I'm gonna be so upset. I'm definitely gonna email my guidance counselor.
Yeah, I will email my guidance counselor.
Which that proves our point of just how in contact with these people we are.
Yeah, and how important it is to have a good relationship. So we just touched on like writing an email to our guidance counselor.
Mhm.
How would we get about to writing an email to our guidance counselor or our teacher, or if you want to get in contact with the principal, how would you write an email?
Right. So, number one, I think you take into account their personality and how close you guys already are. So,
I'd like to pause you for a second there.
Go for it.
Because you're in the beginning of the year, you don't know what your teachers are like.
mm-hmm.
I like to have a basic email format where it's
Yes.
greeting Dr., Mr., Mrs.,
Mhm.
Miss blank.
Yeah.
And then really professionally and respectfully ask your question. You don't have to apologize unnecessarily. I dealt with that a lot when I was writing my emails, actually. And honestly, it just makes you look like less sure of yourself,
Okay.
which I feel like it's important for your teacher to know that you know what you're doing.
Elaborate on apologize unnecessarily.
So, if I were to say, "Good morning, Dr. Yet.
Right.
I'm so sorry to bother you, but
okay.
blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Sorry for asking." And then my ending is always, "Thank you, comma, enter, Sophia safe."
Okay. I agree with that. So, originally when you were saying that at first, I was like, oh, I don't know. Because I know I apologize in some of my emails, but it's usually
really
if
does
something
depend.
happens. Like, I know when we were reaching out to our pre-calc teacher for an interview, there was a date mix-up.
Yes.
And I apologized. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just realized there was a date mix-up, blah, 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 blah.
And that's a completely
That's
different
inappropriate.
scenario.
And then I just said at the end, again, I apologize for the inconvenience. And I
Yes.
say that whenever, say if I'm missing a class or if I have to make up a test or something and it's like kind of like an iffy situation, then I'm always like, I apologize for the inconvenience. Please reach out to me with any questions, comments, or concerns. I'm happy to work with you on it.
Exactly. You're reaching out professionally
Yes.
and respectfully. I feel like it tells you a lot about, it tells the teacher a lot based on how you email them.
I agree. I think, so to touch back on what I was saying based on, how close you are with the teacher, when I write certain teachers, I do that it's still respectful and all
Yes.
that, but sometimes I might just write hello, like to my class advisors, I might just do hello with an exclamation point,
Yes.
enter, and then I'm like, oh, by the way, like this and this happened, whatever, and then I might click enter and then say -Sophia.
Right.
Because we're closer and it's not like so formal because I work with them all year.
Absolutely. With my German teacher, say like good morning in German because I've known her. She's been my German teacher for the past 2 years and I absolutely adore her. And we talk a lot. She's one of the teachers I'm more personal with.
Oh,
Me and my friend are learning a new form of German, like cursive.
Oh, yes,
so
I remember you telling me that.
She comes up to us with like new information that she has on this scripture. And it's great having a personal relationship with her.
Yeah, and I think that's really nice. And I think like specifically like language teachers, like whenever I email or message my Spanish teacher, I always write in Spanish. I always say like hola señora da 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 da, but I'll write everything in Spanish.
Okay.
And like just it's like I feel like that's respectful of the class because it's just like you are my Spanish teacher. I'll write in Spanish because especially with the level of class that I'm taking, like I'm in the honors class, so I feel. It just, for me personally, I feel like that's the expectation is that you should, like, try to write it in Spanish.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'll write my emails in Spanish. But, I think if you're, like, on a continuous message chain with this person, like, I know in the beginning when we first emailed some people, we were like, hello, da-da-da-da,
Yeah.
And then as it got through, we just kind of unformalized a little bit, like still like, you know,
Respectful.
greeting, like hello, yes, blah 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 blah.
But we weren't saying like, hello, name,
Yeah.
comma, enter.
And then it got a little more casual. We're like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the answer to your question, and then like,
thank you.
and then thank you, and then like Sophia or like Sophia,
Mhm.
and it's. So I think that's there, but like, say you have like a question.
Okay.
I think it depends on like when you want to. So if you want to write an email about, say, like you have a question about something, or you want to schedule like a makeup test, I always try to be respectful of their time.
Absolutely.
And, you know, but also being mindful of my own time. You know, you gotta, I think boundaries are really good. So just be like, to touch back on what you were saying, know what you want and be sure of yourself. Because if I can't do something and the teacher's like, I can't work, like, I can't make that work either. So that's important to, like, say that. But always respect is, like, key.
Absolutely.
I've seen emails between kids that are like,
Oh my god, I know.
I don't even know how you could send that to a teacher. Like, I'd be mortified if I sent some of these emails to my teacher.
I have one of my friends that is super casual with their teachers.
Really?
Yeah.
Casual how?
Like, just like, it's another story altogether, honestly.
Oh, I could never. I could not do that.
Yeah.
Like, at all. So, I think, yeah, respect is super important when you're writing it. Just greeting them, because they're your teacher at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like, know where your relationship already lies, and then in the beginning of the year, yeah, just definitely start with, like, that script base. For
What about in person?
in person, I think it should be approached the same way, but, you know, you don't have to, like, greet them.
But like, excuse me.
Yeah, be like, oh, excuse me, could I talk to you about something for a second, depending, or, oh, excuse me, like, I have a question, can I, like, speak to you about it? And then they'll be like, yeah, sure. Or if, you know, say it's the end of class and you have, like, a more in-depth question, you'd be like, oh, would I be able to speak to you after school? Is there a specific time, you know, depending, you know, some teachers have office hours.
Yeah.
And be like, can I come speak to you during office hours about something? I think showing initiative is huge.
Absolutely, I agree.
Like, I think that's something that teachers respect a lot, especially in, like, high school and especially if you're in larger schools.
Yeah, because it's harder for the teacher
yeah.
to manage, like, 500 students.
Right. And so if you take the time, like, you know, I feel like kids get so frustrated sometimes. They're like, oh my god, I emailed my teacher when, and they still haven't gotten back to me. And I'm like, haven't you seen their screen when they're, like, projecting on the board and it says, like, 99 plus emails?
Or,
and I was like,
99 plus school day messages, like,
Right.
50 plus emails.
and I was like, you do realize I have to get back to, like, 50 plus other people? I was like, you know, sometimes, like, you aren't their top priority. Like, I get that frustration. Like, the one time I emailed my teacher about something, like, I was missing something, and I took the initiative to write and say, hey, I'm missing this quiz. Could I take it early? Could I take it? And literally never got a response.
Wow.
And I was a little perturbed about it.
But sometimes some teachers, you have to go up to them to get an answer.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what, like, I'll go up to. So I think you also have to know, I don't want to say know their behaviors, but kind of know how to reach them. And if in the beginning of the year, I think it's a great idea. Better to email, but also go up to them and say, hey, what would, you know, throughout the year, what would be the best method of approaching you and or, like, contacting you? Because then that shows, like, you know, they want an answer. You are taking the time to take initiative and do something that you want, and be respectful of them and their time as well.
Absolutely.
I think, like, respect is key. I think that's our mantra.
Yeah.
Respect is key.
Respect. Like, be careful.
Be careful. And then in terms of the principal, that's hard.
It's hard.
Because, again, like I was saying, they're so detached, I feel like, from our everyday lives.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to say it again. Respect is key.
Respect is key.
Respect is key. I think you definitely, that's when you are definitely formal.
Oh, 100%.
Unless you're, like, talking to the principal every day and they know you and
like,
they're,
very well.
Like, they know you very well. You're walking through the hallways and they're like, hey, so-and-so.
Yeah.
Like, then maybe I would say, hello, enter, blah, 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 blah. And then maybe, like, dash your first name.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I'll do dash my first and last name, and then depending on how close I get,
Yeah.
then I'll start doing only my first name. Or I might not even do the dash. I'll just put my name or, you know. But I think it's hard to approach, like, the principal because, again, like I said, they're so detached.
And we'll talk about how a principal might want a student to communicate
Mm-hmm.
with them in our Tea Time Talk section.
Yes, definitely. So I think the main takeaway would be consider who the teacher is to you already.
Mhm.
Like, if you already have, like, a basis with them, and then respect is key.
Absolutely. And know your audience.
Yeah. And what you're asking,
And what you're
too.
asking. Know what you want.
Know what you want. Like, don't apologize too much.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you are, like, definitely doing something that could be an inconvenience to them, an apology never hurts because it shows that you care and you're putting forth that best foot to say, like, hey, you know, I apologize for whatever.
Absolutely.
So
that pretty much wraps up our tea journal for this week. Thank you so much for listening to the bonus portion of this episode.
we hope you'll join us next week on Sip and Spill.